sales organization, you want 60% or better of your business coming from referrals.
And so now I'm learning that things are not so straightforward like that. That's coming with time, maturity, emotional intelligence.
I started getting into the environment hunting at 7.
Oh, wow.
Because I started to shoot the bow, bow and arrow and learning that.
What I learned is that people don't like the scripted version of you.
Well, guess what? That building was 100% leased, fully spoken for prior to certificate of occupancy.
I think that people don't see that. They just think, like exactly how you said, like it's just like, oh, I just woke up here.
There's two sides to passion, right? There's a harmonious side and there's an obsessive side.
Sometimes you expect the punch because that leaves the person open. So, I knew where to take my hits. I knew when to duck.
He looked at me straight in my face and told me, listen, I'm good whether you make it or you don't. I'm good. You're not.
Welcome to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest is Miss Mary Benz out of Danbury, Connecticut. Mary here is with the Effect Interior Design, founder, CEO, owner of the Effect, and also a realtor with Coldwell Banker out in Danbury, Connecticut. So I've been, I'm on social media, I'm posting my content, and I'm looking to see like who's out there, who's doing what, and I see Mary. And then I look again and I see Mary. And then I look again and I see Mary. And Mary's like everywhere, right? Like she's got posts. I don't know if you've got them scheduled, I don't know what's going on, but here's what's good, right? I don't just scroll past your content. I listen to your content. I watch your content. And sometimes you can look at, when you scroll and usually the content is on mute, right? And it's okay. It's like, yeah, the backdrop is cool, right? Some people are dancing, it's animated, and you're like, all right, that's cool. They're getting views, and then you click. But you always have something valuable to say. And it's usually very informational, and it's usually very realistic and practical at the same time. So I end up listening to your content also. It's not just like scrolling and watching your content. I listen to what you say, and I read your captions. So thanks for taking the time to join me here on this podcast, right? And talk about you and what you do. First question for you, Mary. Happy New Year. How did you bring in the New Year?
I was in sweatpants in bed watching TV. I tried to, those memes that are like, oh, let's all like walk into the new year real slowly. Like I've been doing that for the past 5 years anyway.
Oh, wow.
So I just try to go in very like calmly, have some moments of reflection, of course, but I really try to just keep it low key.
Keep it low key.
How about you?
Yeah, mine was pretty chill. I have 2 little kids. We watched the ball drop, right? And they were so disappointed. They're like, that's it? Right?
Oh.
It was like confetti coming
It's
out.
so funny. Like I love seeing the world through their eyes. Like it's great.
Yeah, I'm ready, right? I'm like ready for the excitement. I'm like, 3, 2, 1, and it's like, I'm like, okay, they officially are way too old for this now.
Right?
Yeah, so it was pretty chill. So thanks for taking the time. Let me ask you a question, Mary. Like, so how do you find time to put up content? With everything you've got going on in the world, right? How long does it take you? How do you find time to put it up? And how do you pick your content?
Those are all great questions. And, I've tried to do a little bit more of giving insight into this, and I can do more. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. Like there is so much, at one point I had everything scheduled out. Yeah. I followed, TikToks or Instagrams, like when they are supposed to push things the most. Like I tried to do all these
trends.
Things.
Yeah.
I am like, anyone who is on my Instagram will laugh when they hear this, because I have so many alarms set a day. I usually will like add to my story, like, how many alarms do you think I have set for tomorrow? It could be 12 alarms. Like, wow. It's insane. Some of those are for posting. Some of those are for showing. Some of those are for, emailing that person back. Like there's so many reasons.
Yeah.
But when it comes to content, I am very lucky because I feel like I'm an extremely creative person. So I never really have an issue thinking of like what to come up with.
Mhm.
But for a lot of people, that's tough. So that takes out a lot of time. Or taking a concept that, you know, sounds good, but like, how do I turn it into something where someone will stop and actually listen to it? You know,
Right.
it's, if I say, oh, I'm going to talk about a specific type of loan today, a lot of people don't care necessarily, but I
Right.
need to get them to care. So how do
Yeah.
I do that? And there's a lot of planning that goes into it.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to, like, I don't do the whole schedule thing anymore because I really wanted it to be something that was enjoyable for
Right.
me. Like, I want it to be enjoyable for other people, so it should also be for me.
Yeah.
And what that means is taking the stress out of it. Listen, there's some days where I'm like really stressed because I do want to get certain things out on certain days. But for the most part, it's really just sitting back and being 100% real and honest. Like, I'm a very transparent person, and like, that's my main goal is like,
Yeah.
how do I be the most transparent and helpful within
Yeah.
whatever I'm posting? So.
Yeah. No, that helps a lot, right? I think because content is like, you can tell when it's scripted, you can tell when it's like it's real experience. For me, I look at it like for me it's kind of like a learning platform, right? And I'm like, okay, these are the most common, like, you know, FAQs, right? People will have like a lot of questions about what you do, especially you, right? You're in real estate, so it's like, what are the markets doing? What do you think my house is worth? What are interest rates? It's like all these common questions. So like, I'll create content around what I'm getting the most questions around, or what I have the most conversations around. And sometimes, here's what's funny, right? I think like we're all getting we're like, we have a short attention span, or we're all a little too curious, right? And we're overreading, and it's like information overload. So it's like, you got to figure out where like that time is. Is it 3 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 7 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Right? So that, and then the clips are really helpful. Sometimes the reels might lead to a longer piece of content.
Yes.
But I like what you do, because it seems like you condense a lot of information into a short period of time, and it's like quality information, and it's kind of like, oh, I kind of wanted more, but now it's over, so you got to check me tomorrow or something.
Yes, to an
Right?
extent, right? And that's like, you got to play the game.
That's
And
the
and I
game.
don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in a way that's like,
Yeah.
okay, great. Someone wants to now learn more and they want to tune in. They're going to click follow. They're going to go back and check, wait, has she posted a reel recently? Like,
Right.
you know, that's part of it. You know,
Yeah.
it totally is, because you know, having a ton of followers is great. That's not really my goal. My goal is to say, okay, I have this many followers. I want 10 to 15% of them to constantly be looking at my stories,
Right.
liking my stuff, interacting, right? And like, I think those are the metrics that, like, in general, I think 10% is like good.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
like, for myself as a personal goal, that is one of them. And I want it to be because what I'm giving them is important and it's helpful to them, not just because they like my outfit or something, you know, like,
Right.
I don't know.
There's substance, though. There's a lot of substance coming out of your content, right? And I think
Thank
that's
you.
what's appreciated. Yeah, for sure. A lot of people see it, you know it, like, and it's crazy too, because you know, when this is for me, I'm like, dang, I got to talk about something else, right? Because it's like, I'm not getting a lot of views, I'm not getting a lot of activity, right? Or maybe I should go do a gym shot or something. Maybe I should go to the gym, post
Mix it
one of
up,
those.
right?
You know what I mean? Yeah, because like, you can tell who's watching your content, or like how they're reacting to it based on the views. But another thing I think is interesting is like takeaways, right? And it's like, okay, so like 2022 was a crazy year, first of all, right? I think for a lot of people starting to discover what they could actually do in my world, right? Because you got 2021 and like 2020 were like kind of trying to, like, comeback years, right? From COVID, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 21 was really a comeback year. A lot of people were still kind of like unsure, because there was like money that they were expecting to come in that they didn't get for whatever reason, right? And then you start to really figure out who were the real hustlers and like who were the guys who just ran into some money, right? Then you've got 2022 was like, okay, this is really realistic, right? We're getting out of it, but gas prices were high. There was inflation, right? Interest rates were crazy, right? And we're still looking at that now. What were some takeaways that you took from 2022? So maybe in the business, building your business, maybe from your clients, maybe even from yourself, right? Like, what were some of your takeaways?
There's a lot. I would say my biggest takeaway, so I'm not a patient person when it comes to myself.
Yeah.
With other people, I'm probably too patient. And that I've been like that my whole life.
Do you like
So-
harder on yourself?
Oh, completely. Like,
Okay, we've got that in common.
yeah, 1000%.
Okay.
You know, and I think it's important to hold people accountable, but I still give people way too much like patience.
Right.
So for myself, I really need to focus on that. But the biggest thing throughout the past few years, I think, was learning to really give myself some grace, and try to give myself, like, be more patient with myself and just the process, the journey, because it's not, you know, I'm a very hard worker. I have been since I was a child, quite frankly. Like, that doesn't really matter sometimes, in the sense of it still takes a lot of time to get where you want to go. If you really are building something that is going to last. I think that is the case, unless, you know, of course, you run into some money, or like, you know, you have some really great people out there who want to just give their money to you. I don't know. You know, for myself, it's really important for me to do this alone, in the sense of I don't really want any partners involved who are like, hey, here's the money, but I want to control this. I'm not really into that. So for me, I'm going to hit rock bottom. I'm going to run myself into the ground. I'm going to do these things, one, to learn as much as I possibly can, two, because that's just part of business, especially when you're doing it by yourself. And three, it means more to me. Like, it means more. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's like, when you can do something yourself, and of course ask for help when it's needed, but like, when you can really do something on your own, and you have seen the good, bad, ugly, beautiful of it, like it just makes it that much more meaningful. So just really learning to be patient with the journey is something I've learned very much so over the past few years.
No, that's good. That's big, right? That's really self-aware. I think a lot of people don't think about the pace, the amount of time that it takes to do something, to get something done. And it's kind of like, okay, so this is the way I look at it, right? And it's been my experience. Like, a lot of stuff that I talk about with my clients or whatever, like, I'll read some things and I'm like, all right, never been through that. It's a little far-fetched. Or, yeah, I've been through that, right? I'll take the stuff that are relatable, that I actually lived, that I went through. And one of the things, it's funny you mentioned that, right? It's like going through the journey yourself. I can't remember a time when I've depended on someone, like fully dependent on someone. I don't remember that. I don't think I've ever been there, right? I haven't been there. I think it's probably like something from my childhood where I was like, I depended on my mom the most, right? And then for some time, it was like, okay, you're going to be a man, so man up, right? Like, that's what my father used to say to me a lot, man up, man up, man up. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you fall, you get the scrape, you get the bruise, it heals, and you're like, oh, I remember when I fell, I remember when I got scraped, I remember when I got bruised, and it kind of makes you tougher, right? So next time it's like, you know how to fall. Not that you're not going to fall, but you know how to fall next time. You know what I mean? So there's that. And then there's also, I think, the macro, right? Like, being able to look at the big picture and knowing that that's going to take a certain amount of time, and you got to be up for that, because you don't know how much time that's going to take, right? So you got to be up for it, right? The other thing that you touched on, I think that I relate to a lot, is the fact that you're willing to go to rock bottom. Like, a lot of people are afraid of that, because that's a dark place.
It's terrifying. It's just beyond terrifying. But there's just, I don't really think, this is my thought on that. If I hit rock bottom early on in my business because I'm willing to, and not because I'm forced to, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, because I didn't get that experience up front, like, that's way scarier for me. I rather fail over and over and over and over again, so that at year 3 I'm thriving. Then like, try to push through it and not allow myself to like learn the lessons I need to learn earlier on. And of course, maybe I'll fail again at year 3. You never know, right? But like, at the end of the day, for me, overall failure of like this business not being successful is not an option. So let me do the little failing, let me, or the big fails. But I'm still going to persevere. Like, it's not something I'm willing to waver on.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, here's what I want to kind of ask you. Like, I'm gonna be real with you, right? Because like I had to figure this out myself, right? I had to ask myself, am I obsessed with being successful and winning, or am I obsessed with just like with business, right? Is that like, am I ego driven, or am I more outcome driven? You know what I mean?
For myself, I would say I'm more outcome driven
Uh-huh.
because I get obsessed with what I want my life to look like.
There it is. Okay.
And until I achieve that,
Yeah.
I will be happy. Like I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be just content though. Like that's not something that excites me. That's not something that I want to achieve. I want to be like, damn, like be able to look back and be like, wow, I achieved a lot. And that's because I have a really amazing life that I want to live. That's just, and like that's part of right now. I'm in the rough of it trying to get there. And some days are harder than others. Some days I'm like, this is amazing. I knew that I had to bet on myself and leave my career with all of the amazing things I had. And other days I'm like, that salary would be great right now. Like, it's
right.
It's just,
Yeah, because reality bites and it bites hard, right? It's funny because so you got into not just one, but you have two going on at the same time. You're running two businesses at the same time, and they're both performance based, right? So real estate is one. When I first got into real estate, it's because I grew up in the city. I'm a New York kid. I'm a street kid, right? So you go out there, you're hanging out all day. If you go out to the city, to Manhattan, you see skyscrapers. And that excited me, right? My father and my mom, they take us out to Rockefeller Center during the beginning of the Christmas season. And you've got the tree, and that's like a thing, right? You've got the skating rink, and it's still there, right? But then all the real estate that surrounds it is really, Home Alone 2, the best movies are shot in the city, right? So that's really what got me into real estate. But when I got into it, it was like nothing what I thought it would be like. You know what I mean? So, okay, real estate, and then I had a part-time job. I did the 9 to 5, and I kind of did it part-time because, like you said, that salary, right? But then you realize you're giving your time away and you're undervalued, and there's this life that you want to live, right? Now, for you, what was it that made you stay? Because you can get into real estate, and you could have done anything, right? You could have done bartending. Maybe you could have become a comedian. I don't know, right?
I bartended when I was younger, and
Did
I think I could be a comedian if I really wanted to, but I have enough on my plate. So, but no, it's very true.
Why real estate? What made you stay with real estate?
So my grandfather told me I should get into real estate years ago. And again, you have to think I've been in the design business for about 11 years. So that has always been an underlying thing or my main focus.
Yeah.
So, my grandfather's you really need to get into real estate. You'd be so good at it. And the design stuff, I started off in sales and I was terrible when I first started off.
Okay.
Really bad. And then I realized what I love to do was, again, I really love to help people and make their experience amazing.
Right.
And I loved design also. So it's how do I bring that all together? So a lot of the times I found myself in customer service roles where I was supporting the internal and external client. And then I got into management. So what I loved about that was the team aspect and again, being able to help people and our clients and make a really amazing experience. But as I moved up, I got further away from the design stuff. So I was getting paid to do something that I really love to do still, which was the helping part and the experience part. But I was getting away from the design part, which I really loved. So, it was constant battle there. And then my grandfather's well, if you get into real estate, you can kind of just leave those things and do what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, but I love design. Real estate's awesome. We're in amazing properties and I mean, amazing from anything from renovation properties that need to be completely ripped down to the studs to multi-million-dollar properties. They're both amazing to me. I love them. Right. So real estate is something I love, but it wasn't what I wanted to do overall. So I continue to like work for other people.
What about the money, Mary? I'm sure you were making money.
Oh
What
yeah,
about
yeah.
the
I was
money?
absolutely. I mean, you know, I worked in Manhattan, I worked in Greenwich, Connecticut. Like I've worked in different places. And yes, of course, the money was there. It
Yeah,
still wasn't what
it
I
still
wanted to
wasn't.
be making though. Like
Wow.
it, right? Like, you know,
Yeah,
you can make a six-figure salary. Well, I want a multi six-figure salary. And how do I
right.
make that happen? Because I've always, for the most part, been the youngest within the role that I've had.
hmm
And what's great about that is like, okay, cool. But they're also going to lowball me when it comes to what they're paying me. And I
Right.
knew that. I was aware of it. I've called it out multiple times within my career. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not someone who's scared to do things like that.
Right.
But I also realized like I'm the one who's going to control that.
Yeah. You know
So
what you
if I'm
learned.
working for other people, like I can't really do it.
Right.
So just always keeping the real estate thing in the back of my mind and like, how do I make this work?
Yeah.
Because I started off really bad with sales and then I got really good at it. And I loved it. And it was like, all right, this is cool. All right, I could do real estate. I think
Yeah.
it makes sense. But I worked 65 to 80 hours a week. Like there
That's
just
it.
wasn't
That's
wasn't
it.
time in the day to do one job, never
Right.
mind two.
hmm
And like you were saying, it's like you have to, a lot of people aren't able to just go into real estate full time.
hmm
If they are, congrats, that's amazing. Good for you.
Right.
Like I couldn't, I don't believe you could, right? Like it was
Right.
hard. So I finally went and got my real estate license. And it's funny because I had come back from the city. I was working in corporate now. So Monday through Friday, in Stamford, Connecticut.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, now I can do this real estate course. It was Monday and Wednesday. So I ended up working from like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Oof.
straight, Monday and
Wow.
Wednesday,
Wow.
where I got lucky, which lucky and COVID should never really be in the same sentence. But
Right.
where I got lucky was I was doing those classes no matter what. And then COVID hit and
Oh.
it pushed back the classes 3 times. Now, the reason we got lucky is because I was working from home now because corporate was like, oh, everyone, like, go home for a couple months. We'll see you back when this comes down, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That never really
2 years
happened.
later.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I was working from home, so it was great because I was like, well, the class was right up the road from me.
Right.
And then they kept pushing classes. I'm like, listen, I need this license. Like, I really need it. What's going
Right.
on? And they went to online, so Zoom.
Oh, it
And
worked out.
yeah, so it was great because I was able to, you know, it wasn't so stressful because I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get from Stanford to class on time? Like, I'm
Right.
going to be late every day. This is going to be horrible. Like, I won't be able to focus.
Right.
So that was one thing that was great. It was on Zoom. So I was able to sit and focus and literally jump off one computer and
Nice.
onto my personal one. You know,
Yeah.
it was like, it was crazy, but you make it work.
Yeah. You
So
figured it out.
yeah. And that's, you know, that's where the real estate thing really happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took a while. It took a while to get into real estate full time. I
Yeah.
think
You
I didn't
seem
go
like
full
you
time
enjoy
until
it.
February.
Yeah. Say it again.
I didn't go full time until like this past February.
February. Okay. So all your attention was really like focused on the design. Talk to me about that, right? Because you say 10, 11 years of design. Real estate, because it's like there's these things for me. It was like real estate was cool when I first got into it. I was renting apartments. Didn't get into it to rent apartments at all. Okay. I thought I was going to get into sales, but the sales game is so crazy and it's like everybody knows each other. Right.
Yeah.
The higher up you go in the price points, it's like everybody knows a realtor, my cousin, my friend, my, you know, whoever, my guy at the gym who's a personal trainer also sells real estate. It's like, really, what the hell,
Yeah.
man? I'm never going to get a deal. Right.
Nope.
Yeah. So you're renting apartments. I'm renting apartments throughout the city. Didn't want to do it. Learned a lot though about people, their behavior. I'm a psychology
Oh,
major, right? So I learned about like how people tick,
it's
how they,
great, right?
yeah, behavior. I'm like applying psychology all over the place. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I realized that, a lot of times in real estate, when you're first starting out, you're the legs of the operation, right? You're like gonna go show properties. You're gonna be, and I think back then we didn't have so much information online. It was not like a Google search. You could just figure things out. You really had to be in the trenches, right? Learning as you go, be an apprentice, be humble, right? And that's really how I learned a lot of things. But when you talk about, traveling from Connecticut, it's a whole different market. It's a whole different ball game, right? Connecticut's market is very different from like Brooklyn's market, right?
For sure.
Very different. But then design, here's where I think it's cool, right? Because I love when I got into sales, the real sales. I'm not talking like co-ops, condos, did that, very nice, polished properties, very nice, selling to owner occupants, did that, loved it, thought it was great, right? It's the polished side of real estate, but there's this dirty side of real estate. It's the those properties that need a renovation, that need to be gutted completely, right? That you could tell nobody's lived there for years. It's like city owned, or it's like pre-foreclosed or foreclosed on. Those brought me, I was like, ooh, right? And in Brooklyn, a lot of those are $1 million already.
Oh yeah.
In the condition
Easily.
they're in, right? So you gotta do is find the right seller. And what I liked, find the right seller and the right buyer. What I liked about it was the buyers were so direct. The investors, they're very direct. They know what they want. They know how much they want it for. They're not, they won't posture as much, but it's either let's do a deal or don't waste my time. That's the mindset. And you learn a lot faster, right? So I think what attracted me to your content was when I saw one of the properties you put up, and that's when I realized, okay, she's in the trenches, but then it's also centered around design, right? Now, design is kind of like, to me, it's kind of like art. And
I agree.
yeah, because you have to be really creative, and sometimes people don't understand that level of creativity. They don't understand what your vision is, right? I think what you had a lot in Brooklyn, we had a lot of homeowners who were buying properties more like in the areas that were being gentrified, and they were taking out these construction loans, and they were tying it in to like, to their mortgage, and it was for a certain amount. And they would come up with these really cool ideas like Art Deco and, whatever else they wanted to do with the property. And for me as a realtor, I'm like, okay, right? like, I don't see the vision. Just bring your architect or let your architect walk the property. You know what I mean? But what is it for you, right? Because if you ask me, from my perspective, the timeline that it takes to actually do a blueprint, draw up a blueprint, look at a property, price the items, the whatever you're going to need, the material, and to actually, bring it to life the way that you want it versus closing a deal. Sounds to me like closing a deal is a lot faster, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is it about the design that makes you tick? What excites you about the design that you've been staying with it for 10, 11 years?
For me, it's just, you get to really impact someone's life through design. And it might sound silly like when that's said, but you have to think about like someone's home, or even for an investor, that property as a first-time investor, like that's a big deal. It's their first, it's their first property where maybe like this is the first time they're making their own money, or they're finally like trying to get out of their job and they're trying to be a full-time entrepreneur. Like it's a big deal for them too, but it's a really big deal for our residential clients who are bringing home like their baby for the first time. They're getting married and coming back to that property as like a new married couple. You just have to think about those things that are so important, those milestones in people's lives.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm creating that space for them to come home or after just a hard day at work, they want to come home, they want to relax, like that's just a great feeling.
Yeah.
And it's great to know that you've created a space for people to just really be able to feel safe and feel at home.
Right.
So I just love that aspect of design. And that has been, aside from being able to be creative, because I love being creative and getting that, that energy out and seeing it in real life.
Yeah.
I love that. But at the end of the day, my driving force has more so been that aspect of being able to create something for someone else.
Yeah,
and
that's
help them love
amazing.
it.
That's amazing. So you mentioned before we got on, you talked a little bit about the fashion designing, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so part of what I like to learn about people is how they were as children, right? And I think that's where you're the most innocent and you're the most that's where you'll take the most risks as a child. You know what I mean? Before somebody like kind of shatters your dream and says, oh, yeah, that it's not going to work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How were you as a kid? Were you always inquisitive? Were you always like creative?
Yes. There's like I feel like with kids, they're always like, why, but
Yeah.
why? And I was like that to an extent.
Yeah.
Like I would more so be asking myself those questions. Like I'd ask an adult once, maybe twice, and then I'd sit back and I'd be like, okay, let me see if I can figure this out on my own. Like,
Yeah.
what is that, right? Which was good and bad, I guess,
Right.
depending on the time. You know, I was always someone who, again, like just back to that, like helping others. Like I was that kid where I talk too much on, you know, on my report card. She talks too much, but she's always helping the kids that
Right.
need help, you know, like just
Yeah.
those sorts of things. But
Chatty
yeah,
catty.
I don't know, I was a good kid though. Like
Yeah.
I was always, I don't know. I think I was a good kid.
Yeah, you hear about like some things that I know that I probably enhanced from my childhood. One is like I was always one of those kids who took a risk. Like I was always taking a risk. You know what I mean? I'd cross the street when the light was yellow. Like I was one of those kids, right?
I'm a calculated risk taker.
Ah, okay. Me too, though. That's a calculated
I
risk.
have been since I was a kid, and I definitely am now. But
Yeah.
yes, I like I didn't climb things and jump off of them necessarily.
Yeah.
But I agree. You know, there was like I would play in the dirt with worms. Like I did not care. I was such a tomboy when I was younger. You know,
Really?
I was the only girl on the basketball court playing street ball. Like I did not care. You know, so
Really?
those sorts of things. Yeah, like I'm a calculated risk taker for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So that's like what because you got to be some kind of crazy to be an entrepreneur, right?
1000%.
You got to be some kind of crazy.
1000%,
Some people don't believe it. I'm like, yo, but identify you're crazy. Know what kind of crazy you are,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to be like you're literally out there with no money coming in. You got to create the money from thin air, right?
Yeah.
Right. You got to figure out, you know, who the people are that you can help, right? And one thing I know, it's funny that you mentioned it, right? Because you're like, as a kid, you were still helping people, and you get in trouble for talking, right? Because you were probably helping other kids, but you're like, at least mission accomplished. I helped somebody, right? And you're still like that today. It sounds like that's really the driver. That's still what makes you tick, being able to help people, right? And when I ask you about the money, like in sales, most people just want to make the money. You know what I mean? But you're like, yeah, I know I can make money, but I'm not helping people. I'm losing my passion here. I want to get back to the design side of things, right? And when we were coming out of COVID, and things were changing a lot, I think more people were going, you know, remote, right? How did you feel about not being able to interact with people and not being able to help people on that level, like in person?
Yeah, that's so even what I miss now is having a team. I have led teams since I was 17.
Oh, wow.
So it's really tough for me. And you know, coming out of having a daily interaction with people, you know, face to face, a lot of people miss that. You know, that was something that was really tough for people on a social level. It wasn't necessarily tough for me on a social level. It was tough for me in those moments where I had, you know, people on the phone crying about, or on Zoom crying about, you know, some personal things. And while, you know, we're having a professional one-on-one, and I'm like, I wish I could grab them a coffee or like give them a hug, you know, like just certain things like that. And, you know, it really was, it was an interesting time for everyone, for sure. I still feel like I was able to, I made sure that there were weekly one-on-ones for whoever needed it. Bi-weekly at the very, you know, latest. I would text people, I would call them, I would FaceTime them. You know, I would always try my best to continue to stay in contact. But, you know, there's a very big difference between this and being able to, again, like get up and be like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's go grab a coffee. You know, it was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah, you're super into nature. I see that also, like on your Instagram, like you're really into it. You appreciate like the sunset and the sunrise and all that, right? I think that's really, that shows a side of your creativity that you probably don't get from like selling real estate, that you do get from design, because it influences your design, right? You call it The Effect. Is that right? Tell me why you chose that name, The Effect.
So yeah, it's actually really funny. So when I was younger, the fashion aspect, I was going to call it like the MB effect with an E, like effect. And I'm just like, that was something I wanted for fashion. And I'm like, the effect doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't. And some people would be like, grammatically, the effect doesn't make sense. And I'm like, okay, but this is the thing. Like it's not supposed to grammatically make sense.
Right.
Point to it, like the point to it is to affect is to make a difference
Love it.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that is the definition, to make a difference to. And that was like, that is my point with this business. Like, yes, my overall, my passion and what I love to do and what I'm good at doing is the design, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But the very much so underlying always foundation for me is creating that amazing experience.
Gotcha.
So, and it's positively impacting my clients, right? Like that is what I want to do no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I came up with that. I was just like a play off of what I was thinking for fashion design when I was a kid.
Right.
And then I'm like, wait, like let's really sit down and think about what I want this to mean. Like what is, you know, and it's funny because I have people again who maybe they have like a degree in grammar. I don't freaking know. Sometimes I'm like, okay, like they get really heated about it. I'm like, that's not like the overall, that's not the overall point. And
it's not the effect I wanted to have on you here, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? I'm like, okay. But like I sat down and I thought about it for a while. Like it wasn't something where I was like, oh, let me just pick that because it looks better. Like So
no, it makes a lot of sense, right? What I tell people a lot, especially on coaching calls, is like, especially sales guys who are like really sales oriented and just like money driven. I'm like, you got to remember what kind of effect you're having on people, what kind of impact you're having on people. What is it that's making you memorable, right? Because there's somebody else out there who's trying to sell them the same exact thing.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's really about what makes you memorable. And one thing I think about real estate when I realized, because I loved real estate, don't get me wrong, right? But I think it's like there's levels to it, right? There's you know, there's coming in, for me it was renting apartments, and there's sales. But then when you start really mixing in those circles, right? Because here's what's funny. Maybe a year or two into real estate going full time, before I went full time, I had a part-time security job that I did overnight. And I worked at a club in the city, right? I think it was either in Soho or Tribeca, one of the two. And you're talking big money out there. And a bottle of wine, the cheapest bottle of wine was like $800. All right. And these guys are just like splurging on like, you know, alcohol. And like the most expensive bottle was like probably $5,000 to $6,000. And there's literally $5,000 to $6,000 bottles on the table, multiple bottles. Okay. These guys are doing lines in the bathroom. They're getting high. They're having a good time. Right. And to be there, you know, as a security guard, I had to wear a suit. So some people couldn't tell if I was security or if I was actually partying, right? So people would invite me to give me drinks. They'll like offer me whatever. They'll tell me what. I'm like, well, what do you do, right? What do you do? Because I'm wondering where all this money's coming from. Turns out they're in real estate. They're in real estate development.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, all right, I quit. I literally quit that job like 2 or 3 days later. 'Cause I was like, this is a joke, right? Like these guys are spending what I make. I have to stand here. These guys are spending it and they're drinking it and they're just snorting it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy. When most people get into sales, they kind of get away from how they can help people. And I think that's really what makes you tick. It's how you help people and what makes you memorable, right? And how I guess that's how you refer or you get referrals, right? Because that's really what you want. Like most people want to get or have a referral based business. And one of the things that I realized, even though these guys are like spending all the money on these bottles, is they all knew each other. They were all part of a network, right? They were all doing deals with each other, and they could just be themselves around each other. And they were just like the most authentic side of themselves that you'd ever see. It made me realize that, you know, I was in, you know, the stage that I was in was at the wrong level. I was at the wrong level. I needed to be around people. I need to have relationships. I need to have meaningful relationships, right? And that's why I think when I asked you, how were you affected by, you know, everybody going remote when COVID happened? Now you have people who are networking online, and they're doing okay because there's like really good online networking groups. But then you have people who are networking in person. So my question to you, if you're networking, say whether it's in person or online, what is it that I guess people know about you or that you want people to know about you when you're networking? Because I think a lot of people are doing it wrong. and they're more kind of like, oh, I sell real estate. Here's a card, right? Do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell right now, right? And it's like you are more people oriented and more I'm going to use that word, effect oriented. You know what I mean? So what do you do at a networking event? How do you network? Is it online? Is it in person?
At this point, I'm trying my hardest to get out and network in person. I'm better in person. Like I am someone who, I just feel like interacting in person is so much different.
Sure.
When you're on Zoom or FaceTime or at least like taking a video, that's different. The pictures are where I'm like, but I'm cooler in person. Like, I'm more fun in person. Like this is, I talk with my hands. I'm like, whatever, so I really try to get out in person at this point. It's safer, I guess, with COVID. I don't really, depends on the day, but I really try to get out in person. And, there's a lot of things, and including with sales. And again, I myself have helped and taught people how to not do sales, which is very much so, you can feel when someone is there just because they have bills to pay. And like, listen, I get it. We've all been there. But that's not how you go about things, because I won't buy anything from you. I might feel bad, but I'm like, you have to learn how to connect with people.
That's the word.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to learn how to connect. So for myself, when I'm going out and I'm networking, I'm trying my hardest to do, if I can do any research ahead of time and knowing who I'm going to network with, I want to connect with them on, still remaining professional always, but on a personal level. Like, what do we have in common where we can kind of talk through that before we get down to business? Like, when people come at me in my DMs or in person on Facebook, whatever it is, and right out of the gate, they are trying to sell me on something, or they're trying to, it's such a turnoff.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I'm like, and I'm in the business of sales. I'm in the business of being an entrepreneur and hustling. I get it. But there's ways to do things, right? So, and with networking, that's so important too. Like, you have to be able to be a person first.
Yeah.
And then do the business stuff, intertwine it, it's fine to say this is like what I'm here to do, but do that after you introduce yourself and like get to know something about the other person at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel like
no, I'm like that. I'm definitely like that. Like, here's my thing, right? Because like I remember in real estate, it was like people I didn't want to work with, and I was like, I just need this check. I'm gonna deal with them until now. And they're because it's like that in the rental market. You got people who are coming into New York, right, from the Midwest or down south. They know nothing about New York, right, and they just know that they are entitled to something, and then you get that sense of entitlement, right? And so I got that in rentals, and then I also got it in sales. So like in sales, you get more of it. It's amplified. You have people, especially foreign buyers, they don't like talking about money. It's like, how dare you ask how much money I have? You have some nerve, you know what I mean? Like, it's the audacity. So it's like I had to kind of learn that, right? Yeah. And then you have to learn like social groups, right? And like social cues, right? I'm socially awkward as it is. You know what I mean? So like I had to go learn all of that new stuff, right? So it's kind of like, so it's like for me, the most important thing I have found was like getting to know people. That helps me know whether or not I want to work with somebody long term, and if I can actually help them. So like I really genuinely want to know people, like what makes them tick. What are you into? What books are you reading? What shows are you watching? Right? Are you into sports? Or are you into like individual things? Like, do you have hobbies? Like, what are you into? A lot of times people don't know what I do. When I meet people, they have no idea what I do. They're just like, yo, he's a cool cat, right? And it's like later on, they're like, yo, by the way, what do you do? You know what I mean? It's like down the line, they'll ask, right? And I probably can tell because they'll introduce themselves as, and that's another thing, right? I think people suffer from, after '08, I learned that a lot of people suffer from an identity crisis, right? Because in '08, a lot of people lost their jobs. And I was literally coming out of college. So I thought I was going to be somebody, who's going to like change the world with my psychology major. You know what I mean? And so people introduce themselves as their profession. And when I started to help, because at that time I was working like, developmentally disabled, social work and all of that, helping a lot of people out. And the parents of those children were very high C-suite executive people. And when '08 happened, when Lehman happened, they lost their jobs. They had to this was like the beginning of where I started to see mom and pops were starting to get formed around the city, right? And it was just people being creative. And you had accountants, you had lawyers, doctors, you had people who were just like professionals who had to jump into real estate or jumped into some kind of a performance-based business selling insurance, and they had to re-identify who they were. But you know what didn't change? Their hobbies didn't change.
Yeah.
You know, the things that made them tick, like, you know, spending time with their kids or like family or going to the gun range or playing sports, those things were the same.
Yeah.
Right. And then I learned later on, get to know people for who they are. And I love podcasting. This is the other thing, right? Because now I can really get to know who people are, right? Because like you see clips on social media, you're like, all right, let's see how the energy level, let's see what it is, let's see how consistent it is. You know what I mean? And you can really tell how people are wired once you start learning more about them. This is one more thing that I think that I learned a lot in sales is like treat people like they are the only and most important people in the world. And if you do that, if you treat people like they're the only, it could be a crowded room, but if you treat them like they're the only person in that room and like they're the most important person in that room, they have no choice but to reciprocate that energy. You know what I mean? And that's really like the basis of most of my relationships, right? And sometimes it's like it becomes a little, for me, it's natural, and it kind of like it's a double-edged sword because I'll get calls at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, dang it, I kind of set myself up for that one, right?
Yes.
But I'll get back to them later on. It's because like I'm really interested. I really want to know, you know? And I think maybe that's what a lot of people don't do when they're transactional. They're just too busy chasing that check, you know? I get that from your content. Like I see in you, like just the way that your disposition, the way that you talk, you're having fun, that you genuinely care, you know? And I hear you talk about the design and the real estate, and it's like it's still consistent. Like you genuinely care about people and their experience. For you, it's about their experience, right?
I see, we've all been there. You know, you see certain people and you're like, how do they possibly have another listing? Like, how do they have another listing? How have they closed that much this year? Like, oh my God, because you know how they actually are in person. You know the way they speak to and about their clients, and you're like, I would not be caught dead doing that. Like, there's no way, right? But hey, they're bringing in 80 grand in 3 months. Oh my God, you know? And I still, to this day, and I hope this is forever how I will be, I would rather not make a dime than be like that. Like, I cannot, I don't understand that. Like, and that's at the end of the day, you know, and it's funny when I went to my parents and I said, hey, so the house fell through. I was like working on getting a property, and that fell through, and everything in my life was just saying, you need to pause. You need to like what you actually want to do right now. And that was leaving my job. And that was going full-time in real estate and launching my business. So that's what I did. And I sat down with my parents and I was like, hey guys, you know, the house fell through, which means I'm going to be here a little bit longer. I moved back in with my parents when I left my apartment as I was waiting to find a property. So I was like, this is what I'm thinking. How about I stay here a little bit longer? And I launched my business finally. And they were like, we will never have to worry about you making money. And we will never have to worry about you failing. You'll figure it out. So whatever you need to do. And that's where, first off, they did an amazing job of always having that, like, that faith in me since I was a kid. You know, I started working when I was like 10. I was volunteering. I was like busting my ass. Like I was working hard. And then I officially started like, but it was great, right? Like you learn so much. And then I started getting paid for work at 15, you know, so I have always worked and I've always figured out a way.
You got me beat by like 4 years. You got me beat. I started when I was like 14. I want to say, I have never not figured it out. And that's something like, you know, that's just life. You know, you have to learn to survive. You got to get to a point where you can thrive and all of those things. But, you know, for me, like knowing that about myself and also having people in my life who
say it outwardly, I'm like, yeah, that's right. I don't have to worry about money because I could be poor today and I could not be poor in a week. You know,
Right. There it is.
right? Right? Like, and that's so,
Yeah.
that for me, I think has allowed me to truly just go into everything
Good for you.
saying like, this is how I want this to go.
Yeah.
Whether I walk out of it with money or not, as long as my imprint on this person was great, amazing, whatever, a year from now they can call me, or they can never call me, but at least as long as they had a good experience, and that's it. Like, that's fine for me.
Yeah.
It really
Love
is.
that.
Because again, like the money, if you're the people who I see that are constantly worried about money, and not, you know, not in the practical sense, because we're all worried about money, right? But like the people who are like, I'm doing this because I want to make money.
It doesn't last.
But you got to dig deeper. Like, what else do you really want?
Right.
Because again, I get it. Like, everyone needs money. That's how the world goes round, unfortunately. But I think throughout the past like few years, everyone has had to say, like, you could die tomorrow. What do you want to be doing today? Like, what brings you joy? What makes you happy? What is fun? Like, all of these things. Like, and I hope that everyone continues to do that because it's so important. Not entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right? Like, I think we talked about it before we started like recording, but you got to be crazy to be an entrepreneur. Like, we are. Like, there's no way around it. There's a certain level of crazy you have to be. And you know, I think for the most part, it's really being able to just say, I'm going to throw it all out there and see how things fall, like, you know, and knowing that no matter what, you'll figure it out.
So are you still, I agree with you 150%, right? You're like the girl version of me, right? For real. Are you still working 16-hour like what days or 14-hour days? Like, what are your days like? What does work-life balance look like for you?
Yeah. So, you know, I go back and forth. When I used to work for for a company, for someone else, I really drove home that like work-life balance that I wanted my teams to create.
Yeah.
Now for me, working for myself, my thing is like, one, a work-life balance isn't really possible because as an entrepreneur and a business owner, it's all intertwined. Like, it's my, you know, the work life, the balance is, it's more so balancing, for me at least, it's more so balancing like my health and working really hard. Yeah. Because like that's every single year, like not even kidding you, every single year of my life since I was probably 17, 18, I drive myself into the ground. And I'm sick for like a full month because I have just like, I'm exhausted, you know, I don't sleep. I work long hours. I physically am like, you know, whatever it is. And this year I really like, I can't do that again. I can't do another year of that. So I'm just really, we're only 9 days into the year.
She's like,
but I'm really trying hard even now to like listen to my body, pause when I need to. Yeah. Because my issue is that my brain will just keep going. Like, the reason I can't fall asleep at night is because my brain is thinking about all these different things that I have to do, or a new creative whatever, or that design client. Like, wait, I want to change that tile in that room because, you know, I think
it's madness.
It is, right?
I get the same thing.
But I also wouldn't change it. Like, I wouldn't change it though. And that's where I know, like, I am where I'm supposed to be. And again, there's days where it's so great and amazing and fun and I'm so happy. Yeah. And then there's other days where I'm like, why did I do this?
Right.
And that's just part of it. But
yeah. No, I can relate to that. I'm in the same boat, right? Where it's like, it's hard because you have things going on in here and you're like, okay. So like having things on a calendar, knowing that, you know, it's like dumping it all out and then saying, okay, I'm going to do it Tuesday or do it Wednesday, and it's there, right? So like for me, what helps me a lot is like when I know things pop up and I can get it done in like 5 minutes because it just popped up, I'll do it, right? Yes. And then like whatever else I can kind of see some foresight, and I say, you know what, let me look 3 days, 4 days, maybe next month, 2 months, I'll jot it down and I'll put it on the calendar and I say, okay, it's on the calendar, it's going to get done. There's something holding it up, and that's out of my control, right? It could be the season, it could be funding, it could be I'm waiting on some more money, it could be anything, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I'll look at like what I have in control and some things that are out of my control, and I'll let go, right? And then what helps a lot, I got kids, right? So like, I remember not being able to spend time with them because I was overworked. I was working 16-hour days, three jobs, and I was just going hard, right? Because I was like, legacy, legacy, legacy. Like, that's me. I'm legacy bred, right? Like, I believe that whatever I do today is going to affect not just my kids, but like their kids, right? So it's like, let me go hard now while I can, right? Because you never know what's going to happen, right? So part of what helps me is like detaching a little bit. Go out, go have some fun. The kids want to do stuff, and I'm not going to deprive them of that, right? Because now I get to spend time with them so much. When I do, it's like they want to go to a bounce house. Done. Let's do it. It's on the calendar. I got to put that on the calendar. That's the other thing. We're going to the bounce house.
I'm the same. My calendar is everything on it.
Yeah. So like whatever we have, we talked about, even a movie night. It doesn't have to be like going outside. It's like a movie night. Get popcorn for that. You know what I mean? Let's just sit down and watch a movie. Be present. Put the phone away. Get into the movie. We've been watching movies. Like, you know, like it helps a lot, especially when COVID hit. Couldn't go anywhere. We're watching movies. I get into like what they're into. Now they're playing Roblox, and they're like really learning about how like the virtual world works and all that, the metaverse. So I like, you know, just being present in other things that don't have to do with work. And at first it was really hard for me to disconnect. Like we go on trips and I'll still be dialed in. I'll still be on my phone, and they get it. They're like, yeah, Papa's working. But it's like I can jump in and out. That's a luxury that I have now. I can jump in and out. But when I completely disconnect, and I don't mean for long, maybe it's like a weekend, just like no social media, no, you know, emails. I'll just disconnect and I'll just kind of like reflect and then get a little bit more be present with my kids. What I find is that when I jump back in, I'm reinvigorated, I'm reignited, I'm re-excited. It's like back at it, right? And I got like this whole new perspective. You know what I mean? And it's like I had to get away from it for me to jump back into it and appreciate it again, right? And then I put myself into a place where it's like I'm broke. I'll tell myself that, right? Like I was like, I don't spend money, because money creates the illusion. When you spend money, it creates the illusion that you have money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until you end up broke. So why don't you create another illusion for yourself? Tell yourself you're broke so you can go make some more money and put that on top of the money you already have.
I will be broke. I will be broke until I hit 1 million. Like that. And even then I'm going to be like, okay, fine. I got one done, but like, where's the next one? Like genuinely and I agree. You know, the other thing I think that's so important to think about. And the reason I work so hard and I'm doing it now is because once I have my kids, I have to be able, like you're saying, you have to be able to turn it off. You have to be able to figure it out, right? And I think something that's so important, you know, the legacy aspect, I feel you on that. Like I'm so there with you, but you spending the time with them is part of the legacy too.
That's it.
Right? Like you being able to, you know, to show it's great to see parents that work really hard. But when you're able to say, Dad works really hard, but he's going to take this weekend and it's just, we're going to do all the things you want to do. And they can see that you're able to disconnect and prioritize them. That does way more than a trip to wherever can do. Honestly, it does. So it's just like I think that's great that you're able to, you know, to have that insight. Not everyone does.
It takes time. Yeah.
And, you know, there's people out there who they work really hard. They bring in a lot of money and they, you know, they're funding the next trip to Disney and all that stuff. And that's great. But what they're not seeing is that the damage that they do by not being present is so much more. That lasts a lot longer.
Oh yeah.
Disney trip, right?
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
That's where it's really great that you're able to identify that. And again, like that's why I'm working really hard now. Because the second I'm a mom, I will continue. I will always be a hustler. Like that's not changing. But I will have enough money to pay someone else to be the hustler when I can.
Nice.
You know, so like that's where for me, I'm trying to prep myself and maybe overwork myself now so that I don't have to do it then. And obviously it's easier said than done.
Oh,
But
for sure. Yeah, and to let go too, right? Like I can imagine what it's like for a woman to have to let go of
oh
that
my God, it's
drive.
so hard.
You know what I
It's so
mean?
hard.
And then like have to have a man in your life who's like can meet that drive, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
be
that's
fully
yeah.
dependent on I can't imagine what that's like as a woman, you know?
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, but like as
Not
a
easy.
man, it's like, yo, chill, I got this, right? And then like I have like data to prove that they're my kids and like my success, you know what I mean? But like for
Yeah.
a woman, and that's like it's for me, I'm like I respect women who hustle and who like get it while they can, because it's like
Yeah.
I understand that now, you know, it's the playing field is kind of even. You can jump in
Yeah.
as a woman and you can produce as a woman and you can create your own lifestyle as a woman, and it's like it's a little scary to say, well, okay, yes, I'm going to be a mom, but in order for me to do that I have to find the right guy, and that guy has to have he has to either match where I'm at, my values, my what's important to me, or he has to exceed that, and I have to be able to let go of control. As an individual, as a person, forget like, you know, man, woman, gender, whatever, letting go of control is a mind trip. Just to imagine that you have to let go of that level of control, like that takes years to accept and then be able to say. So I think that's like a journey in itself, and I can't wait to see what that's like for you.
Yeah, it should probably be a TV show. Let's be real.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, I'm very, and not in a crazy way. I'm not like a control freak
Yeah.
because I very much so am in control. My thing is, if I can control the things that like my production and how hard I work,
Right.
I can most likely control the outcome of things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've definitely now, especially as like a legitimate business owner, an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
never mind when I was making the sort of salaries I was making and doing the things I was doing, like it's hard to find someone who can understand that and
Yeah.
who can, because my thing is too, like I know where I'm headed. So as long as I don't need somebody who's making a ton of money, as long as he knows where he's headed
Yeah.
and it's the same level, and I
Okay.
see that in him, great. Like I don't really, my thing isn't about how much someone has right now. It's like, what are they doing to get to where they
Yeah.
need to get to
Yeah. I'll
and
tell
want to
you.
get to, right? Like, but for me, it is very difficult. I expect a lot out of myself.
Yeah.
I provide people with a lot. So my inner circle, I very much so expect a lot from them too. And
Yeah.
it's a very small inner circle. But
Yeah.
again, like my thing has always been, if there's a me in the world, then there's someone for me in the world. Like, if
Right.
I can provide all the things that I provide and I
Yeah.
can lay that on the table, then there's going to be someone sitting across from me being
Right.
able to do the same for me.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of the times what happens is, you get to a certain age or there's a certain milestone or, you have all these things coming from the outside and it's like, well, why don't you think about like maybe adjusting what you're looking for, right?
Settle.
And quite frankly,
Yeah.
I have tried that, and guess what? That doesn't work either.
Doesn't
So I'm
work.
going to stick to my list, and yes, I have a list. I have a list for everything. I have a list for what I want to do for myself, how I want to improve myself.
Right.
You are damn sure I have a list for what I'm looking for when it comes to
Right.
who I'm going to share, because it's not just, this is the thing. It's your life, you're sharing your life, which is very important.
Yeah.
My children and what their lives are going to look like is extremely important.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you have two sides to that. You
You're
have
right.
two parents usually, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if not, I'd rather do it myself than do it with the wrong person,
Yeah.
quite frankly. But you usually have two people, and it's very important. Like you decide
Yeah.
who that person is.
Yeah.
So the overall building the life is one thing. The kids are extremely important. But then for me, I have businesses that are currently happening, but also future ones. And that person also is going to be along for that ride.
Right.
So it's like, I'm expecting a lot because
Yeah.
I need it. I have a lot of goals and
Yeah. No,
they're
you
all gonna get
should. You
achieved
should.
now.
Yeah, you definitely should. So like for me, I think the whole purpose of, it's crazy because like I learned the hard way. I went through a divorce and all, and it's like, yeah, great mom, great person, but we had two different visions of life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? For me, I had to learn, like I had to go through, that's why I was saying, like whatever process you're going to go through, when you have to relinquish control at some point in your life, that's going to be a journey in its own. And I hope you document it because that's going to be amazing to
Yeah.
see, right? Especially,
Whoever the man is, he probably will document it because he'll be like, oh my God, this is like such a, I don't know, accomplishment or something. Like,
yeah,
I
it's
don't
an
know.
experience. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think you have to form an alliance. And I think when you look at
It
how
is.
civilizations and empires are created, it came from alliances. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? From both
Yeah.
sides, from like the man brings this and the woman brings that, and they form an alliance, and it kind of like it fortifies, the foundation that they
Mhm.
have in mind to build this. Especially like the man has to be the visionary, and then the woman's like, no, I see the vision. I grew up with visionaries. I know visionaries in my family. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
my mom, my dad, they were visionaries. So it's like you got to have that. You know what I mean? And it's like it's
Yeah.
so if you don't have that alliance and you don't have the purpose, then eventually things change because of the circumstances, and people
For sure.
change because of the circumstances. So I've kind of had to learn that through experience, and now I'm
Mhm.
at a point where it's like I just enjoy like watching the process now,
Mhm.
right? Because I hear guys talk and they're like, I make the money, but I can't find the right woman, right? And I hear women talk and I'm like, they're my clients too, right? They're like, I make the money, but I can't find the right guy,
Mhm.
or I don't want to find the right guy. I'm just kind of dating right now. I got things going on and I can't be
Yeah.
available, right? So it's like, why? Because a lot of times they have this person is purpose driven, this person is purpose driven, and the purposes aren't aligned. So it
Yeah.
takes time to find that right purpose, that right person who has the right purpose, so you can align the two and then form that alliance. You know what I mean? And that's where the legacy comes in, because the
Mhm.
kids will see that, and like the kids will repeat that later on in life with their families, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like we just got to go through the process, kind of like how we started the conversation with like the pace. You just got to
Yeah.
pace it out, you know what I mean, and give it the
Mhm.
time that it needs to grow. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's an enjoyable process. It's a headache sometimes, and like you said, it's like, how did I even get myself into this thing? But it's like
Yeah.
when you look at in retrospect, you're like, yo, I can't believe I went through that and I survived it. You know?
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the thing for everyone who is physically alive right now, no matter what sort of day we have had
Yeah,
or situation we have been through, 100% of the time we've made it through
you
because,
made it
well, we're
through.
alive, right?
Yeah.
And I love that, like there's little sayings like that out there, and I love that because it's so true. Like I'm sure we have all gone through days, weeks, years maybe where we were like, didn't think we were gonna make it. We have, like
COVID.
stuff gets tough, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you sit back and you're like, I'm fine. Like this is good. Like if I made it through that, like this
Yeah.
is gonna be cake. Like,
Yeah.
and it's always good to be able to look back in those moments where it's like, at least for me, like this, having moments where the entrepreneur stuff is tough and, it is, but having those moments and then being able to say, time out, excuse me, like you're
Yeah.
lucky to even be where you're at, never mind have the opportunity to be a business owner and to
Right.
do these things. Like you need to like give yourself, like thank your old self, thank
Yeah.
your child self, thank all, your past
Yeah.
person that
Snoop,
got you
I think
here.
me.
Right? Yeah. And that's the
Right.
thing. Like you're still thanking you. And because we were talking about this, it might have been earlier before we started recording, but like I'm really hard on myself. So to thank my present self is not something that I do often. It's not
Right.
something I'm like, I'm getting better at it, trying to. But if I can thank my past self, who
Yeah.
is still me, but like I give her a lot more credit than I give myself now. Like
Yeah.
it just makes it a little bit easier for
Oh
me. It's a
yeah.
way to like get myself better at,
Yeah.
you
Like,
know,
yeah. Like I say to people, applaud your accomplishments, right? Even if it's
yeah.
like the week, you know what I mean? At the end of the week, if you knew you were gonna have a tough week, and
Mhm,
maybe you thought you were gonna have a great week and it was tough, and it's like, yo, I got through it. Applaud that. Like, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Like maybe a little Johnny shoot a shot back or something. I don't know. Whatever you do to light up a cigar. Like I tell guys, it's like applaud that achievement, right? So definitely that's big for you to like, even give yourself credit, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see the effect and like your real estate business, say 10 years down the line?
I I have very crazy goals for myself and my business.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's in general, like I'm someone who genuinely is working towards and will have some sort of a TV show. Like,
Oh, nice. Okay.
like that's something that I want. It's something that I
Yeah.
think, you know, is on different levels, you know, and overall, I want to be someone who, you know, people think of me when they think of like overall lifestyle, whether that's content, whether that's, you know, just a lifestyle person.
Yeah.
You know, so that's real estate. Maybe that's clothing at some point, you know, like, I don't know, maybe I
Yeah.
bring that childhood dream to life, but you know, like that's design. It's just the overall, I want it to be something where not necessarily a household name. I think I'm a little too crazy to be everyone's household name, but you know, just I want for people to understand the business overall and what that foundation is, which is, you know, the experience that's there.
Yeah.
But also see, like, I always want to be very transparent with like what my journey has been. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, you know, having a TV show to some extent is like, it's gonna be real. Like,
A
I'm not
reality
gonna
TV show, yeah.
I'm probably gonna have to go on like Hulu or Netflix because one, I swear a lot. Two, like I
Love
want
it.
it to be
I can't
very
wait to see it.
authentic. Like, you know, I don't want it to be something that's just like, oh, cool, it's another like person that's no, like I don't think there's enough people who are genuine out there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a, you know, there's only so much you can show on, you know, on certain TV platforms and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
So that's what I meant. I don't want to say they're disingenuine, but
Yeah.
you know, you're not able to really show who you are. And like
Right.
that to me is very important
Sure.
because I want to be relatable. I
Yeah.
want for people to understand like it's okay to drop coffee on the floor
Yeah.
and like
Fumble
whatever,
the ball,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, and that because that is life. Like
That's
there's
life.
no way around that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's sometimes where I love when I get a message and it's like, oh, looks like you're having a great week. And I'm like, well, I'm failing because I'm not having a great week and
Yeah.
I need to put something up on Instagram right
Yeah.
now and be like,
To
hey,
motivate myself.
you know,
Yeah.
so it's always good to get those checks because I'm like, oh, I'm not doing as good as I thought with being, you know, with
Right.
being showing what this process is. So that's a huge thing for me over the next 10 years is really
Nice.
just being able to show what being an entrepreneur really looks like.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, as a female, I think it's just really important to be able to show, and within the next 10 years, I'm going to be a mom, probably a wife.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mom is more important for me than the wife, to be very honest. But, you know, like I'm going to have a lot of things.
Yeah.
I have my 10-year plan has a lot on it.
Yeah.
A lot on it.
Yeah.
You know, and I just want to bring people along for that ride and do it in a very transparent, open, and honest way. But it'll be very successful.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see the TV show, first of all, because
I know, right?
I
It'll
think
be
you're going to
great.
be really good at that. I like watching your content. Your content is good, like all the way. I think you being yourself is like consistently you, right? 10 years, you're going to be a wife. So Mary Benz. Are you going to keep the name or are you going to hyphenate?
Great question.
What happens there?
Yeah, professionally, I will always be Mary Benz. And it's actually funny because it's my second last name.
Is it?
It is. I am not German. So Benz is German. My father is Irish German, but my birth father is a different person. So when I was born, I had my mom's last name. And then it's really funny because she almost named me Mercedes. Not knowing, I'm dead serious.
That would have been perfect.
That she was going to marry
A Benz.
someone with the last name Benz.
Yeah.
So thank God she did not.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, my line of work would have been much different because
Car dealership.
it had to be. But yeah, I'm very happy that I was not Mercedes Benz ever in my life. But Mary Benz is my real name because I get that question a lot. I'm like, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I will hyphenate my last name. I always want to have the same last name as my children. And you know, if I am married and I have children with that person, then we will all have the same last name, but professionally, I will always be me.
Well, you're a brand at that point, right? Like you're a brand. Mary Benz is
Exactly.
a brand at this
Exactly.
point. Yeah,
It is. It is. So
that's
yeah.
cool. Okay. I got three questions for you before I let you go, right? We'll play a quick
Mm-hmm.
game. It's called Hands Down, the lightning round. It's gonna hit you with
Okay.
three impulse like questions. You tell me what you think, right? If you don't want to answer the question, you don't have to answer. Just say pass, okay?
Okay.
All right. First question. Future Mary Benz, is there a height requirement?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Guys are listening. Hello. What's the height requirement?
So I am, hold on, sorry, I have like two people coming into the house right now. They would laugh at this if they hear it because they always make fun of me. So
Yeah.
I am 5'7". I
Okay.
like wearing heels. I'm able to wear whatever. I wear heels all the time. So I'm usually 6 feet the second I put them on.
Really?
6'2" and up is like ideal.
Okay.
But yeah.
Guys, you're
Sorry.
listening?
I'm
6'2" and
going.
up. She's
Fine.
taking application.
Yeah.
Right?
But like obviously 6 feet and up is fine, but like
Okay.
6'2" is ideal.
Got it. But you're really like 5'7". Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. Restaurants in Connecticut versus restaurants in the city. Yeah. Which would you
Okay.
recommend? Which would you recommend?
Well, if you live in the city, it's the city.
Hmm.
But like there are some times where I'm like, oh my God, I want to get in the car and drive to somewhere in the city that I used to go to all the time when I lived there.
Yeah.
But there's also great places throughout Connecticut. That's hard.
No, it's a hard one. You got to think
That's a
about that
hard,
one.
yeah, it is. It's a
Okay.
hard one.
Okay. And third question, reality TV show.
Mhm.
Would you say which ones do you think are more real? Like reality TV shows that have to do with dating or reality TV shows that have to do with real estate?
I don't think either are really like that realistic at times. I don't know. You know what's funny, but like the Selling Sunset and stuff, I feel like you get both. You get dating
Yeah.
and real estate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go with that. I think that for us being in real estate, there's things that we sit there and we laugh about because we're like, this is not real
Yeah.
life,
That's
right?
not real
But
life.
it
Yeah.
also is not. And then you have $1 Million Listing. I think they do, a better job at being realistic. And listen, Selling Sunset, there are certain things that we're like, wow, like we've been through that same story.
Right.
But I guess real estate, I would say. versus
Real estate.
dating.
More
Yeah.
realistic.
Because the dating, I feel like people go on TV to do these dating things and, they've even admitted like they're going on there just to get on TV.
Right.
There's certain ones that I think maybe are okay. I'm not
Yeah.
really into watching them.
Yeah.
So I'll say real estate.
Real estate. Yeah, I'm with you on the real estate one too. I think they're a lot more real, right? And I kind of want to I like what you said about that, having your own TV show. Because I think people need to see deals fall through, right? Contracts fall through. They need to see that and how do you save a deal, how you salvage a deal, how you build a
Yeah.
relationship. They got to see that side of it, right?
There's
Not the
so much that
fluff.
happens behind the scenes. It's, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I can't wait to see yours, right? Yeah. Okay. Where do people find you, Mary? I know I got you on Instagram, but where do people find you? Oh, you know what? Before I ask you where people find you, what is your bottom line, right? Like your reoccurring truth, right? Where doesn't matter what you're going through, this serves as like rocket fuel for you, right?
Yeah. So overall, that is like the life that I am building right now, the life that I'm working so hard to create, like that's my bottom line. That snapshot of like when I'm finally completely at peace with where I am in life, how much money I'm making, my family, all those things, like that to me keeps me going. Because the reason I am doing this whole being a crazy entrepreneur
Right.
is to control that outcome and make the sort of money I need to make to produce that outcome, right? So like that will always be my bottom line.
Yeah. Nice. The journey. Sounds like the journey
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Now where do people find you?
Okay. So I am on Instagram at It's Mary Benz.
Mary
And
Benz.
then, yes, and then also The Effect by MB. So that's the design aspect. You know, my main pages started off as real estate. It was real estate with MB, and then I turned it back to It's Mary Benz because it isn't just real estate. Like it's it's everything. And I think being, showing ourselves as like whoever we are is really important, because if it was just about real estate, I would not get nearly as much interaction with people, and they wouldn't be as comfortable reaching out. So
yeah, I like that. I got to work on that. Mine is like all coaching. So I got to.
And like it's great, right? And it's great to like talk to you as a person too, So add some pictures. Some people, it depends on their comfort level, but even if it's the back of your kid's head, if you want to show their faces, something fun that you're doing, stuff like that. It's good.
Mix it up a bit. Yeah. Well, Mary, you're awesome. You're amazing. You are the truth. You're a genuine person. You are a hustler amongst hustlers, right? Hats off to you. I respect and I admire your grind. Your grind is like really real, because it's like you had to move back home and you're like, no, I'm not quitting. I'm still doing it. But a lot of things are still coming into fruition the way that you want them to. And you're not giving up anytime soon, right?
No.
So this new year, what I like to say is we're going to slay 20. We ain't come to play in 2023. We came to slay in 2023.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And, same to you. I think it's funny. You said at some point, like, I'm the woman version of you. And I think that's hysterical.
Yeah, for sure.
So, the hustle, and it's great to connect with people on the same wavelength as that. So thank you.
Definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, this was The Bottom Line, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line.
Love it. Thank you. Bye.